Hey, what's up, guys? It's ex-mormon with My Spiritual Life. And today, my husband Jared's helping me out. Thank you. You're very sexy. I appreciate you.
Stop it, you.
And today we're talking about combating the fear of judgment, which I think is one of the most difficult issues that you face whenever you leave a high-demand religion. The theme for February this month is me trying to help you guys feel more confident in yourselves. And I think addressing this whole fear of what other people think of us is a huge aspect with rebuilding or building for the first time any semblance of confidence in who you are. I remember when I first left Mormonism, I was horrified at the thought of anyone finding out ever. And I remember, Jared, when your shelf broke, you were like, well, I'm just going to have to fake it. Yeah. I think that was more being worried of being rejected by me, though, probably.
Yeah, that was more you. I wasn't worried about the judgments of, like, people seeing me, I don't know, if they saw me drinking coffee or whatever, if they knew I didn't believe in it or whatever. I wasn't quite worried about that. I was very bothered by the thought that, like, anyone would think that I left because I wanted to sin or something like that. Like, I always had to preface, if somebody found out that I drank coffee or alcohol or whatever, I'd always have to be like, but it's not like, I don't believe in it, okay? I had to tell them that. Like, I thought that your beliefs were bullshit way before I started drinking alcohol.
Well, I'm not drinking alcohol because I'm an apostate. Yes, okay.
I'm not an apostate because I drank alcohol. I drink alcohol because I'm an apostate.
There you go. That's the money maker right there.
I wanted them to know that I had come to the conclusion that it was untrue.
Right,
and then, after that, sinned.
So it was like, you didn't want the self-image of, like, them viewing you as someone who, wasn't, like, convicted or something? Or
yeah, I wanted to be...
was just lazy in your beliefs?
Yeah, I wanted to know that I believed in it, I really did, and I was very convicted or whatever. I wasn't one of the, he never really had a testimony. But I guess the more time went on, the more I don't know, I've recently started to sort of ask myself if I did ever have a testimony, because there did seem to be certain things. It seemed like I did believe in the church, but it did also seem like maybe there was something I believed in more. And whenever those two things conflicted, I would go with the higher belief form. Like, missionaries I knew on my mission they would talk about polygamy a weird amount. And it was always something
They're so horny, they can't think of just, like, one wife.
Yeah, I know.
They gotta think of several.
They're like, what would you do if polygamy was brought back? And I was like, well, I mean, I wouldn't marry more than one woman. And they're like, but what if, like, the prophet commanded you to or whatever? And I was like, I'd tell him no. Or whatever. So there was always something that if the church conflicted with my actual moral compass, I think I always defaulted to my own moral compass. So in that sense, I believed in the church, but maybe they're right. Maybe I didn't have quite the testimony that I thought I did. Maybe I didn't have quite the testimony that they think they have. And maybe that's a good thing. That
criticism wasn't such a big deal that was so bothersome to you for so long.
Well, the more I think about it, the more it's something I'm kind of proud of. More than anything, that, like, I had my own moral convictions, and most of the time those seemed to be at least tensely okay within the confines of the church. But when they conflicted, I would go with what I believed to be moral. So there was clearly something I believed in more than than the church.
Gotcha. So I think one of the hardest parts of, leaving that high demand religion is that you have to confront all of these possibly really untrue and really just disheartening things being said about you or said to your face or said behind your back, and it just sucks. Like, it's really, really hard, and we are so emotionally wrapped up and invested I think, especially growing up the way that we did in high demand religion, we're so invested in what other people think of us. And I think that we were raised to be that way. And I think it's terrible because it keeps you locked in on trying to please all these people around you instead of actually asking yourself, what do I think is important and why? Like an example, a friend of mine went skiing with her kids on Sunday, and she's ex-Mormon and her whole family is ex-Mormon, and her mom gave her like a really hard time about it. You got to ask yourself, like, okay, this is something my mom really doesn't like, but do I think there's anything wrong with skiing on Sunday? And if not, like, I got to let this go. Like, I can't not ski on Sunday for the rest of my life just because my mom is going to be upset with me or whatever. And it's so much easier said than done. It's so, so hard. But that's why I really wanted to talk about this topic today. I think one thing that really helped me get through the really hard time of like all the judgment and people saying things about me that I felt weren't true was like trying to break it down and realize like, okay, why is this person opinion the way that it is? And when I break it down, it's like, okay, you know, a family member or friend or whatever is upset with me, and maybe they've expressed it or I heard it through the grapevine or whatever. And then realizing, okay, their upsetness really has so much less to do with me and has so much more to do with their beliefs. And if you can frame it like that, you can kind of let yourself off the hook of feeling so guilty or so rejected, because you're like, oh, wait a second. My mom's upset with me for skiing on Sunday, and that's because she believes that if you do that, you're just spitting in the face of God. And so, of course, this would be something that's very upsetting to her, and it can help you kind of disconnect from taking it so personally and be like, oh, her upsetness is about her beliefs and not about me. And I think that helped me a lot, and it's hard. But again, just having that disconnect of like, oh, my mom's upset that I'm drinking alcohol. Well, that's because she thinks alcohol is, going off the deep end. Like, you're not going to have a happy life. You're going to be an alcoholic or whatever. And then realize, okay, that's her belief, and it's not actually true to what's happening with me. And maybe I'm afraid of that possibility too, right? Because I know I was really afraid of that, actually. I was like, I'm going to become an alcoholic. But then that's where you got to be real with yourself and be like, does this criticism have any sort of meaning to me? So
I think there was something about Mormonism, not exactly sure what it was, but something taught us to kind of be aware and afraid of the judgment of absolutely everyone around us. And I think I think a lot of times when we
treat it all equally.
Yeah. When I think a lot of times when we leave the church, our response to that is to say, no, we can't worry about the judgments of anyone around us. And I think that's a bit of an overcorrection, because I think the actual thing you want to do is be aware and willing to consider the judgments of certain people that you trust, right? Yeah. And there's a couple ways you can do this. One way is, you have to pick a person who you think is intellectually capable of good judgment. So, obviously your spouse is hopefully one of those people. And even your parents, if they're Mormon, they can be that person in certain areas.
Not everyone's as lucky as you and has such a smart spouse. So, I don't know.
So what I'm saying is, if some random dude at work judges me on something and I don't view him as being intellectually capable of making that judgment call, I'm going to dismiss it. I'm really not going to think about it much. It's not going to hurt me.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the ideal way to handle that. But if Morgan tells me I'm doing something wrong or whatever, then that's something that I absolutely have to consider. It would be really stupid of me to just say, so you can't judge me. Because the people closest to you, they are going to judge you. And that's not always a bad thing. Just know if you can trust their judgments. And the other kind of element to this would be try to understand on what their judgments are founded. because we do worry when we leave the church about our parents judging us. You really got to think about what those judgments are founded on, though. What they're founded on is something you no longer believe in. And I think once you kind of frame it in that way, it becomes maybe easier to take the first step toward letting go of it and being okay. Like your mom tells you that the spirit is gone from you because she saw you drinking coffee or whatever.
The light is gone out of your eyes.
Yeah. That's going to feel hurtful. But if you think, okay, on what is that judgment founded? If a Mormon person told me not to drink coffee, well, that's founded on them not believing in the church. Now, if Morgan told me not to drink coffee, it's not founded on the church, so maybe I should consider what she's saying, because maybe that means I'm drinking too much coffee.
It's only 4 pots a day.
No.
It's fine. I mean, you went so many years not drinking coffee, you gotta make up for it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like your body should be able to handle that.
The point is, it's like if if there were a group of people who legitimately believed they were Jedi, and Jedi in the movies, they're not allowed to love. So if my friend who's a Jedi sees that I'm married and is like, well, I really don't think you should be doing that, I'm really not going to take the judgment very seriously, because I don't think Jedi are real, and I don't believe in the things that they believe. So it doesn't really hurt me that he says I should do a different thing, because his judgment is founded on something I think it's ill-founded.
So, assuming the Jedis are real, though, you really should probably listen to him, because being a Jedi would be awesome.
I mean, you can still use the Force. You just can't be a Jedi.
Oh, well, you know.
I have an assload of midichlorians in my blood. I know that. I got tested.
Okay, so I think the moral of this story is decide whose judgment really matters. And I know that's, again, so much easier said than done, because we have this void we want to fill of like our self-worth, and we've been taught to get that from other people. We've been taught to get that validated through going to the temple, or reading your scriptures, or praying, or getting other people to think that you're doing a good thing, and trying to fill that void is so hard when your whole life you had it filled externally, and then all of a sudden all of that external validation just is gone. So you got to ask yourself whose judgment really matters, and if it's not these people, who is it? And then bringing it back to yourself of, okay, I'm going skiing on Sunday, and here's why I think it's a good thing. Here's why I think there's nothing wrong with it. And then when mom gets upset, you know what I mean? You have your reasons that you feel good about it, and you don't need her validation, and you can hang up the phone when she's being rude, like you don't need that.
When you sort of have to trust yourself first and foremost, because
right.
Like, you got to think of your judgment as maybe being, what you got to refer to, because in order to find people whose judgment you trust, you have to have trust in your own judgment to determine if they're trustworthy, right? Like if I, in my judgment, have my friend who I like, okay, deem him as somebody trustworthy, whose judgment I can trust. Then later on, if I do something really stupid and he tells me that I did something stupid, then I can kind of try to, like, I can consider that like, oh, maybe this is a guy I need to listen to, because I really thought long and hard about, should I listen to this guy? And I concluded that I should. And so maybe even though my judgment isn't exactly telling me that I did a wrong thing, maybe this guy could be right and I could be wrong about it.
Sure. Yeah, and it's such a catch-22, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, trust yourself or find people to trust, like, all this stuff. But I think ultimately it's just, like, just becoming aware of this is super helpful. Like, understanding that we're giving a lot of credence to people's opinions that we don't even really care about. Like I know I was talking to a friend of mine recently. She's like, I don't even like my in-laws. Like, and I don't respect them, but yet I still care about what they think. And if you feel that way, you're not alone, right? Because again, I think we were kind of taught to care about what everyone thinks and to treat it all equally and to make it mean something about us, even if we really don't feel like it's true. I think the important thing here is to understand that, like, you, as hard as you try, cannot control how other people view you. And the more energy you spend trying to do that is just wasted, because ultimately you can keep calling your mom and telling her this and that about Joe Smith or this and that about coffee or whatever, but ultimately she's going to think what she's going to think, and you got to move on. Like, you got to let it go and realize that if people really are going to judge you for these things that you really don't consider to be a big deal, that's not your people. I'm not saying you got to write everyone off, but that's not your people you go to, like, get real close with, because you don't need that in your life. You deserve to feel like you have people who are judging you fairly, I guess. And so maybe let go of trying to convince these people that you're okay, and instead invest in relationships that you feel a lot more safe with. Booyah. I think one last thing I wanted to mention with this video is another thing that helps is remembering that, so we're so afraid of what our family thinks, but recognizing that any negativity that's coming out of them is really just coming from a place of hurt and concern and, unhelpful beliefs, we could say. And that their pain is real. And sometimes it's kind of our reaction to get really angry because we're like, their pain isn't real because it's founded on a fake church, or, But the truth is their pain is very real, because this is their reality. Their reality is they just lost you for the eternities. Their reality is that your kids are not going to be as happy in life, because of you leaving the gospel. And I think just like trying to have a little bit of compassion for, as far as like, oh, their pain is real, can help you take it less personally and instead say, oh, this person's hurting and they're lashing out, and it's not really about me, it's about their beliefs. Again, kind of like what I said before. And not that you should let people treat you badly. You should not let people treat you badly. But I think it's our reaction to want to get really defensive. And I think this is a way that can help us stop from jumping into making things even worse, is to just be like, you know what? It makes sense you feel that way because you believe ABC, right? And just can kind of deflate the intensity, hopefully.
So Pendulette has one of my favorite takes on this. And he's an atheist, so it's kind of a funny take on it. He feels sympathy and even sort of a weird sense of gratitude toward people who evangelize to him, because he said, look, I'm an atheist, and so I don't believe in any of this, but if you thought I was standing on these invisible tracks of an invisible train, if you sincerely believe that, and you care about me, well, of course you're going to tell me to get off the tracks.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, well, no, I think that there's no invisible train there. But I can sort of have sympathy toward that idea that you really want to push me off the tracks. So don't get mad at the people who are trying to push you off the tracks, or at least try not to, because they can be dicks about it sometimes. But just remember, if you want to be angry at someone, be angry at the person who told them that there was an invisible train there in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I think I think so much of this comes to you with time, like this ability to kind of disconnect and not take it so personal, because when you first leave, it's just so raw, so hard. You want that validation so bad, but time really does help you feel more confident in your decisions, and I think it can be sped up as you try to ask yourself, I'm doing this, why do I feel good about doing this, or why do I not feel good about doing this, and just kind of try to build your confidence from there. Okay, we got prompts. So please feel free to answer these prompts either in the comments below or click the link over to my Facebook group and we can discuss it in there. And these prompts are to try to help you build some self-awareness and help you be able to confront your fear of what other people think of you. So the first prompt is, what am I afraid of people viewing me as, right? And for me, like when I first left, I was afraid people would think I was just being led by Satan, like I wasn't a credible human being anymore. So answering that question, and question number 2, why am I afraid of that? I think I was so afraid of that because, again, it was like I had all these awesome qualities and they were just gone because I was following Satan. Like I was a rational person. I was a smart person. Like I made decisions very meaningfully, and it was just like that was all thrown away when someone labels me as just like a Satan follower. So then the third question is that potential judgment that I'm afraid of about myself true? Now, this has to be in your observation, obviously, and you can be biased, but I don't believe that I'm being led by Satan. And because of that, it gives me the opportunity to release the judgment. Like, just let it go. Like, if it's really not true what they're saying, give yourself permission to let it go. So Jared brought to my attention with these prompts that perhaps what if the thing that people are judging you for actually is true, right? Like, maybe Jared's afraid that people think he's an asshole. And if he thought...
Now I am.
Maybe he thought he was afraid of that, and then he asked himself, is that true? It would give him the opportunity to say, okay, yeah, maybe there's something I need to change. So I think the prompts can still be helpful either way, because it's either, okay, here's permission to let go of the lies, or here's me owning my shit. I need to stop being an asshole, right? I think it's just a lot more relevant, though, as we leave high demand religion, to be a lot more caught up in kind of the lies people are saying about us, or the just unfortunate gossip and things that is often so hurtful. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please hit that subscribe button because our baby is due March 12th and I am tired. And if you don't subscribe to the channel, it can really cause issues with our YouTube analytics. And so just help us out a ton if you'd hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to answer the prompts below or in the Facebook group. And a huge thanks to our Patreon supporters. Without, we could not do this channel. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Also, I'll comment Minecraft and PewDiePie a bunch because that boosts the analytics, I've heard.
Okay, do that.